Good afternoon to you viewers, and thank you for joining us again today. It's a great opportunity for us to share again on Peace Zone, and I want to believe that you are doing very well with everything that we're experiencing in the country right now. Even if you're not in Nigeria or you're in anywhere, I want to believe this is one of the greatest things for us to do to become peaceful persons. On Peace Zone, for this particular episode, we'll be doing a whole lot around teaching ourselves about peace and helping us develop different skills to become a peace builder, because the idea of this show is to become for you to become a peaceful individual. So just like we did last week, we discussed several things around peace building. We talk about peace, what is peace itself, and this particular edition we'll be looking at different things around peace itself, peace around conflict, so last week we discussed peace as not just the absence of war, but the presence of justice, security, and development. Why for this week we'll be looking straight into what is conflict. I know this is not the first time you're hearing conflict or you're hearing things around conflict, but I want you to relax your mind and pay attention. We'll be going on a short break and we'll come back so that we'll do this together. So thank you very much. Just stay tuned with me.
Net in collaboration with KAFTAN TV presents Peace Zone with Peace Ambassadors.
And today is World Peace Day, and with us in the studio we have Moses Abolade, Peace Education and Practice Network Executive Director. Welcome to the studio with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
It is a weekly show designed to share peace knowledge and skills, discuss national, continental and global trends, and provide for mediation time where you can share your conflict situation with professional peace ambassadors and mediators. This zone commences on your screen from February 3rd, 2023 every Friday between 3:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Channel 124 on StarTimes. For partnership or sponsorship and further inquiries, contact Net in collaboration with KAFTAN TV presents Peace Zone with Peace Ambassadors.
And today is World Peace Day, and with us in the studio we have Moses Abolade, Peace Education and Practice Network Executive Director. Welcome to the studio with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
It is a weekly show designed to share peace knowledge and skills, discuss national, continental and global trends, and provide for mediation time where you can share your conflict situation with professional peace ambassadors and mediators. This zone commences on your screen from February 3rd, 2023 every Friday between 3:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Channel 124 on StarTimes. For partnership or sponsorship and further inquiries, contact
Thank you very much. So today we want to discuss conflict. Now, and just like last week, we discussed several things around peace. So far you know about peace, we also need to know about conflict. And I want you to pay attention to these things because you experience them daily. I'm sure that this is not the first time you are hearing about the word conflict. At least through the movies, you know what conflict is like. Imagine you are seeing a movie and any form of, and you don't see any tension in the movie, or there is no form of conflict, or you are just feeling that this movie is just going without no tension, no cause for you to shake. Will you be interested in such movie? And that's the reason conflict is not necessarily the opposite of peace, but conflict is that thing that is important if you want to have a very holistic picture for what we call life itself. Conflict, we can say, just like I said, to make something interesting, you need conflict. You need conflict to make something better. And if I have to define conflict for you, conflict based on different definitions, conflict is the disagreement that exists between two forces. Conflict can also be that contradiction that exists between different parties, between you and your husband, between you and your boss. And sometimes that contradictions as a result of different incompatible needs, goals, relationship, position, and what have you. So conflict, sometimes when it happens, it's not the main concern. The main issues is the fact that you cannot, is how you manage it. So we'll be looking at several things aside from this definition, and it's important for you to know. So after now, I'll also be discussing with you before I introduce to you the guest for today's show. Is a person that has to do with political, is a political analyst who has a lot of knowledge when it comes to handling issues that relates to hearts. So I'll be talking about facts about conflict, facts on conflict. And I want you to know that these facts are things that when you see them, you should be able to know them about conflict. When we're looking at conflict is something that is natural. The problem we have as humans is that we tend to fight conflict issues. You don't have to fight conflict. You have to know that it is natural to you. You have to know that conflict is natural to you as a person. So when you know that it's natural to you, you will not be fighting it. You will be paying attention to it, and you will value it to the point that you will be thinking of how to manage the situation. That is one major fact you should know about conflict. Another thing you should pay attention about when it comes to conflict is that conflict is neutral. Conflict is neutral. It is important for you to know that conflict is neutral. Conflict is something that it depends on you, that you can make it constructive, and at the same time you can make it a destructive element. Now, conflict is determined by yourself to know if it's going to be violent or if it's going to be something that you use to promote development. Conflict is not something you should see and you should be running away from. I have a lot of people ask questions around you're a peace builder. How do you deal with conflict? Do you attend to conflict? Do you avoid conflict? Or when somebody slaps you, you just look at the person and you start running? No. You must pay attention to conflict, you must value it, and you must be able to use it for your own good, because it might either be destructive and be constructive. It's important for you to know these things. Now, I have mentioned that conflict is natural. I have also mentioned that conflict is neutral. I've also mentioned that conflict can be destructive depending on how you manage it. And at the same time, it can also be destructive. It can be constructive, and it can also be constructive. Now, conflict is a positive ingredient that makes life balance. I'm not talking about violence right now. Now, there's a difference between conflict and violence. So you must know the difference. Now we are talking about conflict, and maybe in our subsequent section we'll also be explaining more about violence. So I want to believe that you've learned something from this edition of Peace Talk with Peace Builders. And on Peace Zone, the next segment will be the Peace Building Convo, and the topic we'll be discussing today is the Naira Redesign and economic consequences. The Naira Redesign and economic consequences in maintaining peace and security ahead of 2023 general elections. And I want to believe that you are not just hearing this. A lot of Nigerians at this moment are being affected by this. We even have somebody that should be on the show right now who has been affected by this cash. The CBN on 26 October 2022 announced the introduction of the redesigning of the 200 Naira, 500 and 1,000 Naira note into the financial system. While the new notes started being issued, the old notes are expected to go off as a legal tender on the 31st of January. And all this has been going on. Presently, we have an extension to 10th of February. And that is why there has been a grace period till 17th of February. However, there are several things that has been going on between that same time till now. And that is why there have been a lot of reports of hardship on Nigerians. So it's important for us to discuss it because we are concerned about peace. And that's the reason why I have with me on this show today the person of Fiamotoga Perekeme. I hope I did not murder the name.
No, it's fine.
Thank you for joining me on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you around. And I believe we will be doing a lot together discussing this Naira design because there is so much to talk about as it relates to peace. I do tell people, like I said last week, peace itself is not just, while we have theoretical terms and all that for peace building, is also for peace is also very important for us to see how it relates to our lives directly, and that's why we're discussing it. And I know you as a political analyst and writer who is very equipped with knowledge around this, but I would like you to also introduce yourself to the viewers before we go in depth into this section.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. My name is Fiamotoga Perekeme. I am both a Bayelsan and a Delta, but most importantly,
I like that your name.
And I'm a content creator, I'm a writer, I'm a political analyst. I'm also a public health personnel. So you can call me a student. I'm still in the process of learning. So
we are all learning.
Yeah, so that's that.
Thank you very much. While I will want people to be excited to join us on the main session, but for now I want us to go on a short break. And when we come back, we'll be going straight into some questions that need to be answered. So I believe that is going to be a wonderful time with you.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I want you to join me as we take a short break. When we come back, we will be discussing with Perekeme. I hope I pronounced that well.
That's fine.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thank you.
HepNet, in collaboration with KAFTAN TV, presents Peace Zone with Peace Ambassadors.
And today is World Peace Day, and with us in the studio we have Moses Abolade, Peace Education and Practice Network Executive Director. Welcome to the studio with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
It is a weekly show designed to share peace knowledge and skills, discuss national, continental and global trends, and provide for mediation time where you can share your conflict situation with professional peace ambassadors and mediators. This zone commences on your screen from February 3rd, 2023 every Friday between 3:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Channel 124 on StarTimes. For partnership or sponsorship and further inquiries, contact
thank you for joining me again with Perekeme. And Perekeme, just like he introduced himself earlier, is a vibrant political analyst and writer who is concerned about how economics affect politics, education, health and development. It's good to have you on this show. So I'll be asking you some questions. We have few times at hand. So I want to ask, what do you think about the Naira design policy?
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Yeah.
So basically, given the reasons of the federal government and also the CBN to redesign some Naira notes in our economy, the Naira redesign policy itself is a beautiful initiation. Okay, it's something that should be adopted by vibrant economies of different countries at some time. And according to what the CBN governor said, for us, it's been long overdue. Because these are practices that happen, in 5 years or 6, 9, 10 years interval, right? And then it took us about 9 years to implement this. But the most important thing is, I always tell people, the medium to communicate the message is as important as the message itself. Okay? So, however you try to, when you do not create a good implementation system, your initiative or your policy is bound to fail. and the intent of that particular policy can be defeated. So the intent of the Naira redesign itself is beautiful. But the big question is, how have we been able to manage the implementation process? It is almost unrealistic, or it is almost impossible to say you are introducing a new set of redesign currencies into the market, into the Nigerian market, and you are asking people to you want to retrieve the old one, and you are creating such a short window of opportunity for people to deposit this old Naira note and get the new one. Remember, this is not the first time we are doing this. I think in 2019 we decided to modify our 15 Naira notes, and then we made them polymer. And then I think somehow in 2014 we also decided to redesign our 100 Naira notes. But it is very funny that because of the untold hardship happening now, a lot of people don't even remember when the CBN implemented those, Naira redesign, those notes redesign policies, because the process was almost seamless. People did not face a lot of difficulties, and the reason is simple. Anytime you want to replace something with an old thing, you always have to make sure what you are going to what the item you are replacing, or the item you are replacing, is being filled up with something that is on standby. But unfortunately, I don't want to say it's the fault of the federal government. I would say the CBN governor has not done right by the people. The intent of the policy is beautiful, but the implementation and the transition from this old Naira note to the new redesigned Naira note is poor. And that is causing a lot of damage to the Nigerian economy, to small and medium scale enterprises, to a lot of other things. So that's just where we are now.
Well, can we discuss now? You mentioned communication process as being a major issue. Now, looking at it, do you think, can you give us some best ways or better ways the CBN will have gone about with this, or the federal government itself?
Okay, so this is it. We live in a good country, but we have our flaws as a nation, right? We still have rural communities that don't even have access to commercial banks. We have rural communities that don't even have access to ATM machines. We have rural communities that are dependent on POS terminals to be able to make withdrawals and deposits.
That's true.
Do you understand? So, and then Nigeria is a vast nation. I come from the southern part of the country. We have riverine communities that will take you hours on the boat to get.
That's true.
So, whenever you want to do things like this, first off, you have to be very, like I said, your message is as important as the medium you're passing it through. So, first off, what is the level of sensitization you have brought into on the table? How well have you been able to tell the people that, okay, look, in this particular window of time, we'll be introducing a new redesigned Naira note to you, and then we'll be retrieving the old ones. At a particular time, we are hoping that these old notes will be obsolete and useless. But the first thing you have to do is sensitization. Go into these communities, you have to send out a team and do a situation analysis. How feasible is it to get this new Naira note across, and at what time? You cannot calculate a policy that is going to affect the whole nation using Abuja as a yardstick.
That's true.
Or using the Federal Capital Territory, or should I say the major cities like Lagos and the rest of them as a yardstick that are very accessible, that also serve as windows of entry and exit in the nation. You also have to consider interior communities that are not very privileged to access. So sensitization is very important.
Sensitization.
And then the window of opportunity has to be very, very long. I don't know what the CBN governor is trying to do, but according to the CBN Act, when such implementations are being made, there is a very long window of opportunity to be able to retrieve the old Naira notes before they become obsolete and are no longer eligible as legal tenders.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know we have a lot to say, but we have shorter time at our hands now. I just believe that we might have another time to discuss this. But before we go, if you're seeing this right now, I want you to possibly, because there is another aspect of this program where people can reach out to us either through the studio line or give us their conflict situation, especially how they are going about this Naira thing, and they can also contribute to this by sharing with peacezone2023@gmail.com. So I believe we have several things going at the same time, but I believe we will have so much to discuss, maybe after now. But I want to ask this last question. In what ways do you think this can affect peace and security? In 1 minute, we don't have time. In 1 minute, because we are looking at the peace and security of Nigeria right now, and we are headed towards the elections. How do you think this will affect it?
Okay, just like I said, I understand what the CBN governor is trying to introduce. He is trying to educate us and then try to launch Nigeria into a more electronic transaction dependent process, or a more friendly process that has to do with electronic transaction. But you also have to take a lot of indices into consideration. Our network providers, how reliable are they? Right? And then a couple of other things. So, like, asking about the effect of this particular issue on the 2023 elections, let's take, for instance, we're already greeted with lack of petroleum products, especially fuel, as it is now. That is already creating a hike in transportation in the country, all over the country. People have to be transported to their polling units to vote. Now, people don't have cash. We are not even saying we have a dependent electronic transaction system that can sustain us while we are still going through Naira hitches. So people are making transfers and then having delayed transfers and all of that. So and we don't even have enough cash. So it's a lot of issues, because people are going to find it difficult to transport themselves and their families to their polling units. Another issue.
I really wish we have enough time, and I know that we have a part 2 of this, definitely. Okay. And I believe that when I call on you again, you're very accessible.
Oh, sure.
So thank you for joining us on Peace Zone for this particular episode. And I want to say thank you very much for joining us. I want to thank KAFTAN TV management team and Peace Education and Management, Peace Education and Practice Network, PEPNET, Nigeria and worldwide, for putting all this together. I want to thank all the crew members that make this possible, the engineer and everybody. I want to say, please be peaceful with yourself. Remain peaceful with other persons, and be peaceful with your environment. It is important. That's the only way we can protect this particular planet we have. We don't have any other place to go. Thank you very much. See you at the same time, same station. Bye for now.
In a world where info